The room was silent in the kind of way that makes your chest feel tight. Executives in expensive suits sat around the long glass table, whispering quietly, avoiding eye contact with the man sitting alone near the end. He didn't belong there, at least not by the way people looked at him. His jacket was worn at the edges, his eyes tired, and his hands rested quietly in his lap as if he hoped not to be noticed. Yet in just a few minutes, the CEO would stand up, point directly at him, and say words that would leave the entire room stunned. He saved our company. Before we begin this story, take a moment to show some love. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet strength of ordinary people, please like this video, share it with someone who might need a little inspiration today, and subscribe to the channel Kindness. Also tell us in the comments where you are watching from. Your support helps these stories reach more hearts around the world. 3 months before that meeting, no one in the company even knew his name. Daniel Carter's life had never been easy, but the past few years had tested him in ways he never imagined. After his wife passed away suddenly from an illness that progressed far too quickly, Daniel found himself raising his 7-year-old daughter Lily alone. Overnight, the quiet home they once shared with laughter and warmth became a place filled with responsibilities, silence, and memories that sometimes hurt too much to revisit. Daniel tried his best to stay strong for Lily. Every morning he woke up before sunrise to prepare breakfast, pack her school bag, and walk her to the bus stop. After that, he hurried to his job as a night maintenance worker for a large technology company in downtown Chicago. It wasn't the career he once dreamed of, but it was steady work, and steady work meant food on the table and a roof over their heads. Most employees in the company never noticed the maintenance staff. They arrived after office hours, cleaned the floors, emptied the trash, and fixed small issues in the building while everyone else went home to their families. Daniel was one of those invisible people, but Daniel had once been an engineer. Years ago, before life took its difficult turn, he had worked in software development for a small startup. When that company shut down, he struggled to find stable work. Bills piled up, Lily was born, and eventually Daniel accepted whatever job he could get. Pride slowly faded as survival became more important than ambition. Still, something inside him never stopped observing, thinking, and solving problems. Every night while cleaning offices and hallways, Daniel noticed things most people overlooked. Open laptops left on desks, screens filled with code, whiteboards covered with diagrams and charts about projects he barely understood but still studied with quiet curiosity. One night, while vacuuming near the IT department, he noticed a screen still active on one of the computers. Lines of system logs scrolled across the monitor, and something about them immediately caught his attention. The company's central platform, a system used by thousands of clients, was showing unusual activity patterns. To most people it looked like meaningless data, but Daniel recognized something deeper. He had seen similar behavior years ago while working on network infrastructure. It looked like the early signs of a catastrophic system failure. At first he told himself it wasn't his place to interfere. He was a janitor now, not an engineer. But the thought stayed with him all night as he mopped floors and emptied trash bins. The next evening, curiosity and concern pulled him back to that same computer. The logs were worse now. If he was right, the system would crash within weeks, possibly days. And if that happened, the company could lose millions. Daniel stood there for a long time, staring at the screen. Finally, he grabbed a notepad from the desk and quietly wrote down what he believed the problem was, a small but dangerous flaw in the system's load balancing algorithm. Under heavy traffic, the servers were slowly overloading each other instead of redistributing demand. It was like watching a dam develop tiny cracks before a flood. Daniel didn't expect anyone to listen to him, but he left the note on the keyboard anyway, signed only with his first name. The next day the note was gone. For a moment Daniel wondered if someone had thrown it away. But 2 nights later, he noticed something different. Engineers were gathered around the same desk, discussing something intensely. They looked confused, concerned, and a little nervous. The flaw Daniel described was real. Still, no one knew who had written the note. Days passed. The engineering team tried several solutions, but nothing worked completely. The system was becoming more unstable. Daniel watched quietly every night, torn between staying invisible and stepping forward. At home, Lily noticed something was bothering him. One evening while drawing at the kitchen table, she looked up and asked why he seemed so serious. Daniel smiled gently and told her he was just thinking about a puzzle. Lily giggled and said puzzles were meant to be solved. Sometimes wisdom comes from the smallest voices. That night, Daniel stayed after his shift ended. When the office was empty, he sat down at one of the computers and carefully wrote a detailed explanation of the problem, along with a possible solution. It took him hours to map everything out. He knew it might cost him his job if anyone caught him using company equipment, but sometimes doing the right thing feels more important than staying safe. The next morning, the engineering department discovered a new file on their shared system. Inside it was a complete breakdown of the flaw and a precise fix. At first, they thought it was written by one of their senior developers, but no one claimed it. The solution worked. Within 48 hours, the system stabilized. A crisis that could have destroyed the company had been quietly prevented. But the mystery remained. Who had written the solution? For weeks, the question circulated through the office. Eventually, security logs revealed that the file had been created late at night using a maintenance staff login. Management traced the account back to Daniel Carter, which is how he ended up sitting quietly at the end of that executive meeting months later, feeling completely out of place among people who seemed to live in a different world. Daniel assumed he was about to be fired. Instead, the CEO stood up. The room turned silent. He looked directly at Daniel and pointed toward him with a small smile. "He saved our company." The executives shifted in their chairs, stunned. The CEO explained how the company had been days away from a catastrophic system failure that could have cost millions and destroyed client trust. The engineers had confirmed that Daniel's solution was not only correct but brilliant. The room slowly filled with murmurs of disbelief. This quiet maintenance worker had solved a problem the entire engineering team had struggled with. But the CEO continued speaking, and what he said next changed everything. He explained that greatness doesn't always wear a suit. Sometimes it works night shifts, cleans floors, and quietly carries knowledge the world has forgotten to notice. He then offered Daniel a full engineering position on the spot. For a moment, Daniel didn't even know how to respond. His mind immediately went to Lily, to the small apartment they shared, to the nights he worried about bills in the future. This opportunity could change everything for them. The room erupted into applause. For the first time in years, Daniel felt something he thought he had lost forever: hope. In the months that followed, Daniel became one of the most respected engineers in the company. But what made people admire him most wasn't just his skill, it was his humility. He never forgot where he started. He still greeted the cleaning staff every evening with kindness. He still helped new employees who felt overwhelmed. And he always reminded others that talent can exist anywhere if someone is willing to look beyond titles and appearances. At home, Lily proudly told her classmates that her dad fixed a huge computer problem. But to Daniel, the greatest reward wasn't the promotion or the recognition. It was knowing that even during the darkest chapter of his life, he had never stopped being who he truly was: a problem solver, a father, a man who believed that doing the right thing matters. Before we finish this story, we have a small request. If this story touched your heart even a little, please take a moment to like the video, share it with someone who believes in kindness and second chances, and subscribe to Kindness. Your support helps spread stories that remind the world how powerful quiet goodness can be. And here's a special request before the ending. Write "Kindness still exists" in the comments if you believe good people are still out there making the world better in quiet ways. Because the truth is, people like Daniel are everywhere. They may sit quietly in rooms where no one notices them. They may carry stories no one has heard. But sometimes, when the moment finally comes, the world realizes something powerful. Heroes don't always arrive with applause. Sometimes they arrive with a mop in one hand and the courage to do the right thing in the other. And when that moment happens, it reminds all of us that kindness, resilience, and second chances can change not just one life, but many. If this story moved you, let us know in the comments and tell us where you are watching from. Your voice matters, and together we can keep sharing stories that inspire hearts across the world.